Welcome back to the Winning Plays podcast with Brian, Robb, and Michael Pina. I'm Rich Levine, and guys, we're recording this on a Tuesday afternoon, less than a week before the start of NBA free agency, and we have much to discuss. We're going to look at the few different paths that the Boston Celtics can take this summer, and some of the names that might be a part of whichever road they take. We're talking about Kemba Walker, Nikola Vucevic. But first, we're going to remind you to please subscribe to the Winning Plays podcast wherever it is you might listen. It's a big help for our numbers. Give us a follow on our Twitter account. That's at Winning Plays Pod. As always, shout out to CLNS Media for hosting this show. Shout out to betonline.ag, the best sponsor we've ever had. And guys, Mike and BRobb, I would say shortly before we started recording today, Mark Stein had an interesting tweet from a Celtics perspective. He tweets, "The Celtics, I'm told, are emerging as a stealth suitor for Charlotte Hornets free agent Kemba Walker." So, and I guess since then he's sort of taken back the stealth. So now the Celtics are just regular road suitors. They're in the driver's seat maybe to pursue Kemba Walker. What would it be, Robb? Our resident Celtics beat writer. What do we got?
They took their mask off, so that you can see who they are. Stealth is gone. Yeah, this is Mike. I believe we talked about Kemba a little bit last week in our podcast, just as a potential possibility here, but. And I will have to say, I randomly spent some time on his basketball reference page last night because that's how
randomly, huh?
Randomly.
Nice.
Going through dozens of possibilities for the Celtics. Two things stuck out for me there. Number one, with Kemba, guess how many games he's missed in the last 4 years?
3.
5.
6.
Wow.
So you guys are both very close. Mike, good job.
Thank you.
Danny Ainge's, one of Danny Ainge's favorite quotes, "Your best ability is availability."
Yes, and so I think that equals, that's probably what Kyrie's games missed by Kyrie in Cleveland over the last 2 years was, I believe, also 6. So that lines up well there. And the other number that stuck out to me with Kemba, just in, beyond the usual, guess where he ranked in free throw attempts in the league last year for both you guys?
5th.
12th.
All right, not 22nd.
Okay.
5.5 point game. But still, for a 6'1" guard, again, given where the Celtics were at in that department last year, definitely something he does much better than Kyrie on that front. So, I don't know, Mike. I feel like this one is going to be right up your alley since you've been on the team of, regroup and get back at it with the max right away in free agency here. But after that research, I was already starting to come around to him being like, he would be an interesting guy in here. And also, obviously, without the baggage of someone like Kyrie in terms of clearly the off-the-court stuff.
Yeah, I think that there's a few routes that the Celtics could take with if they should choose to open up max cap space by renouncing Rozier and Marcus Morris, and Kyrie and Horford both leave. I just think that I've said this a few times that, being as aggressive as possible, this is the year to do it. I think you are in the money with a max guy in that you can contend legitimately if you get the right player and everything else falls in line and you kind of support him with smart value signings throughout the roster. So Kemba, he makes a lot of sense. He reminds me in a lot of ways of how the Celtics used Isaiah Thomas a few years ago. Just a dynamic point guard who doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands at all times, who is really crafty off the ball, will basically be familiar with Brad Stevens' offensive system, who can also run a ton of pick and roll, who has gotten better basically every year in important areas, i.e. three-point shooting, and he actually took the 4th most threes last season, which is just kind of remarkable if you remember how much of a question mark that was earlier in his career.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kemba he's really, really good. And if you were to pay him a max now, like he just turned 29 years old, so there's a little bit of a danger there in the latter part of the deal, but the risk is more than worth it in my opinion.
He's the only one that makes sense to me.
He's the only one, huh?
And when we're talking about max guys that the Celtics are gonna, he's the only guy that I'm locked in on that I think if you're gonna go that route of getting to using that max space, he's the perfect fit for this team right now.
So, Rich, Kawhi Leonard's agent calls. Uncle Dennis calls you and says, "I want to play for the Celtics." Do you say you're not Kemba Walker? Click.
No, I'm talking in reality right now.
Okay.
Uncle Dennis doesn't have my number anymore. But no, like sure, there were a few guys. But I'm saying of the dudes that we're going to discuss today. I don't know. Kemba just makes a lot of sense in so many ways. Just from a personality standpoint, he's going to be everything that you didn't have with Kyrie. I mean, you look now. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's played 8 seasons in Charlotte. Can you imagine if I mean, I know you can't. Kyrie wouldn't have lasted 2, but I mean, there are very few players who I think could have done what he did the last 8 years. Still continue to get better, still continue to be like the consummate leader. And I think Marcus Smart is a perfect guy to play alongside Kemba. Gordon Hayward, I just think he complements them perfectly. I'd be very excited about this. And I don't understand. I know, like, obviously Charlotte can give him more money, but like, you know, at what point do you have to put the extra $30 million or whatever it is aside, right? I mean, he's already made $50 million in his career, and he's got at least one more big contract left. I don't know if that's going to be a make or break to spend a bunch more years doing what he's been doing the last 8. That doesn't seem very fun to me.
Yeah, I think this is the last contract, the last big contract for him. But so that 5th year might be valuable, and you know, he has spoken publicly repeatedly about how he wants to be in Charlotte, which is admirable for him. But at the same time, I'm assuming that he also wants to be in the playoffs and up his profile on a national stage and play on nationally televised games more than once a season.
What's he supposed to say when they ask him that question too, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. But he seems like a very high character, high quality person, and if you want like all of the qualities from the 2018-19 Celtics to just completely evaporate, you get guys like Kemba Walker in your door next season.
It's funny that Kemba actually might be somewhat responsible for causing a rift between Kyrie and Brad Stevens when Kyrie threw Brad under the bus for not double teaming him.
I remember that game. Yeah, we weren't trapping in the fourth.
We weren't trapping in the fourth. So
the universe works in mysterious ways,
right? But yeah, no. This is one guy again. We talk about, and Rich, you mentioned guys that like just make sense in terms of the fit. This also makes sense in terms of, like you said, the pitch. Like the Hornets, even if they keep him, they're not going to be able to surround him with. He has no hope of getting out of the first round for another 2 to 3 years in the Eastern Conference.
No way.
It's just they have so much bad contracts on the books. If they keep him, they're going to have to. And apparently, avoiding the luxury tax is a priority for them. And if they keep him, that means they're going to have to be dumping contracts left and right, all of which are terrible. Whether it's Batum, Kid Gilchrist, Bismack Biyombo, etc. So
it's one of the most. I mean, I wrote an article 2 years ago, I think, and the headline was "The Charlotte Hornets are the most hopeless team in the NBA," and I think that basically still applies.
It's an evergreen column, yeah.
It is. It's like, what is your path to a deep playoff run in Charlotte? It does not exist. You did not hit on the key draft picks that you like. You did not hit on Malik Monk. I guess we'll see what happens with Bridges, who admitted that he played like ass last year. So it's like, it's just a really hopeless situation. So the money is real, but if I were the Celtics, I would really have a fun time selling him on why being in Boston is just a different experience.
Who'd they draft? Who's that guy who's going to
PJ Washington?
PJ Washington. So yeah, that's okay. So they're still not going to get out the first round.
That was a very Hornets pick, by the way.
Yeah,
but
they're saying they like taking the
problem,
from Kentucky. If you go to a big school, they'll notice you.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at so the Celtics will clearly have that in their column. You know, the Hornets can obviously pay him up to 5 years, $220. The Celtics can max out at 4 years and $140 million. But realistically, there's no way that Kemba's going to get that kind of money anyway from the Hornets. And even them going 5 years, 190, which is the usual max, seems like a stretch given their financial, predicament here.
What's interesting to me about... No, go ahead, Rich.
I was going to take it a little... You go first, I'll go afterwards.
Yeah, what's interesting to me about Kemba is how great he was, especially in the first few months of last season, with the supporting cast that he had. Like that's a huge thing that would really attract me to him if I were the Celtics, because it's like, okay, you did this there, and now you have, look at the talent that you will have around you. You'll have a healthier Gordon Hayward who might be an all-star or knocking on that door next season, who has the pedigree. You have Jason Tatum looking to take a step forward. You have Jaylen Brown. You have Marcus Smart. You have this culture that the team is aggressively looking to get back to. You have Brad Stevens, who you've known for a very long time. I just think that look, they have more work to do around the margins for sure before they become a team that can win 3 playoff series, let alone 4, but it's just such a much better situation. I mean, Kemba was thrilled when they got Tony Parker last year. That's just kind of it speaks to the situation he's been through.
It's right. I was going to say he's 29. He's been through enough now that he, it's not even like you get it. And, it's not even like you get it.